what I'm going to talk about is some things that we see out there that are developing, some trends that we see out there in the marketplace. But first I want to take just a few seconds and explain who we are and what qualifies us, what qualifies me or our company for standing up here talking about trends. You might know Mintel. We're a research company, and as a research company there are a lot of things that we do, but the big parts that you'll see in this presentation is the tailored consumer research that we do for some of the syndicated reports that we write, and also new product information, which comes from our global new products database. We track new product introductions in 62 countries around the world. So you're going to see some numbers and also some really cool product examples. Now, first off, I have to say, I assume that you guys can hear, because to me it sounds like this isn't working at all. So if you can, excellent, thank you. Great. So what I've got then are some trends that relate to 2015, but also 2016 and beyond, because as you probably know, when it comes to trends, the big trends don't change significantly from one year to the next. We always talk about health and wellness, for example, but it's how those trends are expressed that often changes. So we actually have a set of 5 trends. I'm not going to talk about all 5 because I'll be here way too long. I'm going to talk just about 2 of them. I will say, though, shameless plug, my contact information is at the end. Drop me a note and I'll send you the whole thing so you can see them all. All right. Well, here's why talking about trends and understanding innovation is so important. This is new product introductions, food and non-food. That's mainly what we track, so all CPG products, for the last 50 years. I've been looking at new products and new product trends about in the middle there, since 1986, but we have data that goes back to 1964. Now, the purple part of the chart is food and beverage. The green part is home care and personal care. So what you can see there is new product introductions have exploded over time. And with my having been personally involved in tracking those for many of those years, I can say it's not that someplace in there we completely changed our methodology, but rather the marketplace has changed. For those of you who might be, like me, a holder of an AARP card, you know that, let's say, when you were a teenager, grocery shopping, was a very different thing than it is today. Think about all the different places where you can shop today that you couldn't 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Think about how different it is in the last 5 or 10 years. That helps explain that tremendous growth in the number of new product introductions. Just to be clear, though, this is the number of product introductions. This isn't sales. It isn't an indicator of success either. Quick note on success. I decided not to include the one particular slide on success and failure, but there's a number that's bandied about in the industry all the time. 87% of all new products fail. 92% of all new products fail. You know, it's that huge number. It changes a little bit every time, but we hear that all the time. Now, some people will say, well, that number cannot possibly be right. If you hear what IRI does with its new product pacesetters report, it will talk about 42% success, let's say. So its numbers are totally different. Well, if you think about it, though, think about all of the companies, big companies, little companies. Think about where products are sold in all types of outlets. Think about what the kinds of products they are. Local, regional, test market, national distribution. There's a lot of products out there, and you look at those numbers, there are a lot of products out there. It doesn't seem too surprising that 90% of those products might fail, especially when you have a lot of SKUs, a lot of varieties. So, how do you not do that? Well, one way is to make sure you're tied into what the trends are and what consumers say is important to them. Because if you're making what they want, you've got a better chance, obviously, of succeeding. So, as I said, there are 5 big trends that we've been talking about, but I'm only going to talk about those top 2. And they're a little hard to read. The first one is, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. And the second one is, clean is the new green. I think there was some really good discussion in the last panel about clean label. The other 3, just as an FYI, are products as the professional, products that take steps out of especially cooking at home. Death of the middle ground, that's about value and premium. And the last one is net niche, and that's all about mobile technology and the role of the internet in products. But I'm going to talk about those first two. So the first one is it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. Well, I think Weight Watchers had it right a few years ago when they said diet is a four-letter word, because what we're seeing increasingly is, especially with younger consumers, they don't want a pre-made, determined for them diet plan. They want to do it themselves. They want to mix and match and find the best blend of things that works for them. They're looking for positive health attributes, not negative health attributes. So we see a lot of fascinating things going on when it comes to how companies deliver on this, and some more details about what consumers have to say. Well, we ask consumers about what kinds of tactics do they use when they decide to diet. And I find it fascinating that the top two by a very wide margin are exercise and eating less. What that says to me is that consumers get that diet, weight management is hard, and they need to do a lot of different things to make it happen. It isn't just about following some regimented program and miraculously things happen, but rather they've got to pay attention to a lot of different things. You can see that everything else in there in that list that we asked about is far less important to consumers. They're far less likely to try some of those things. And what we also see is consumers want more from their food than ever before. Now, this is broken out by age group. And what you can see, the bars that go across there, the purple one that's all the way on the left in each of those groups, is natural. We ask consumers what product attributes they're looking for. The second one, the green one, is a full serving of fruits and vegetables. And after that, it is some of those reduced claims, low fat, low calorie, low sodium, all of that. No high fructose corn syrup is the blue one. And the last one is high protein. Well, clearly, it's younger generations, especially millennials, who are more focused on all of this, especially when it comes to natural product attributes and a full serving of fruits and vegetables. What that says to me is that key consumer group that's one of the biggest buying groups right now and will continue to be as they age, they're looking for the inherent goodness in products. There's a lot of opportunity for companies to offer more of that than we've seen already. One of the things that we see in the UK market especially is communication about 5 a day. Getting 1 of your 5 a day, getting 3 of your 5 a day. That's because of government-sponsored programs talking about 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. So you see a lot of products with that statement big and bold on pack. We don't see that nearly enough in the US market. You see it on a few products, but not very much. So these are 2 examples of products, one from the UK, one from Australia, that talk about the number of servings of fruits or vegetables in the product. Those bars there, those little frozen bars, have 1 of your 5 a day, as you can see by that label front and center. Now, the Waddy's Baked Beans from Australia says that it has 5 of your 5 a day. I kind of question that one, but nevertheless, it's a strong statement that appears on the back of pack. We see protein, of course, being talked about a lot. Protein is today's hot ingredient. It shows up just about everywhere. You name the category, there's going to be a high protein option in there for consumers. There's even, there are quite a few number, in fact, also, of high protein pet food. One of the ways to track what trends are really hot with consumers is to see what's going on in pet food, because usually you see all of the trends for consumers show up in pet food as well. They are our 4-legged children, right? Okay. So we see protein products on the market that answer the needs for every day part, for every type of eating occasion that you might think of. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, dessert, you name it, it shows up. What we're seeing, and I think we'll see much more development of this, is new types of protein showing up in the market. You'll see those salty snacks, those pea protein chips from Canada. That's a really spicy chip that's made with pea protein. Pea protein up until this point has been seen mainly in drink powders, like muscle building powders, those sorts of things. But now we're beginning to see it in other types of products, everyday consumption types of products. I think someone in the panel just previously, or one of the people asking a question, mentioned crickets and cricket flour. And yes, we do see products out there in the market that are made with cricket flour, dried up ground crickets. Very good protein source, apparently. I tasted one of those. I tasted one of those cricket bars. The flavor was great. They did a really good job with the flavor development. Now, it's a flour, so it's a powder, right? But when it was formulated, the formulators added something in there to make it a little crunchy. They did. All I could think about was legs. That's all I could think about. I couldn't get it out of my head. But I think we will see more development of other types of protein sources showing up in all types of foods. Another product to watch, I think, now I might have this in the next slide, but another product to watch, I think, is the milk from Fairlife, that ultra-filtrated milk that has 50% more protein. That one, too, will be a fascinating one to watch. And you'll be able to ask them some questions a little bit later, too. Well, high protein isn't the only big diet trend or the area that we see consumers focusing on. It's a lot more than that. We see growth in gluten-free, and I'm going to come back to that in just a second. We see growth in vegan and vegetarian products. Very much niche, but nevertheless, we do see growth there. And we see more activity in what is called flexitarianism. Do you know what flexitarianism is? That's I characterize that as a weekday vegetarian or a part-time vegetarian. What that means is consumers who are eating less meat and identify some of the time as being vegetarian. So, but fascinating to see that burger there, which a vegetable-based burger from South Africa, is the first one we've seen that's carried that flexitarian statement on pack. Comment about gluten-free. We've seen new product introductions of gluten-free go like this. We've seen sales of gluten-free go like this. So I get asked all the time by CPG companies, so where is gluten-free going next? And I have to say I differ somewhat from some of my colleagues in the office, which is kind of dangerous to talk about because it always gets back to them. They say that sales of gluten-free are going to continue to go up. And I don't think that's possible. I really don't think that's going to happen. I think we're going to see gluten-free begin to flatten out, and we'll see it begin to decline at some point. Maybe this year, maybe next year. Here's the reason I say that. In some respects, only in some, but in some respects, gluten-free is like low-carb was. Remember low-carb, it did this, right? Both in terms of product introductions and sales. Shot up very high, very quickly, dropped like a stone, dropped really fast as well. Well, we won't see that happen to gluten-free because there are people with celiac disease, there are people with gluten intolerances, and they need products, and companies need to provide them. However, most of the people, we've got data that shows that most of the people who eat gluten-free have not been diagnosed with celiac disease. They do not eat gluten-free because they have digestive issues. They say they eat gluten-free for completely different reasons. We're guessing that some of those reasons are that their friends eat gluten-free, that celebrities eat gluten-free, and that they've heard that gluten-free will help them lose weight. Well, there's some built-in fallacies there, as I'm sure you can guess. And so I'm anticipating that eventually those consumers who don't have to eat gluten-free will begin to trade out. It's more expensive, it can be harder to find, and they taste way better than they ever have been before, but many of the products don't taste as good as their counterparts that do have gluten. So I would say with gluten-free, keep an eye on what's going on, but we may see the market shift. Well, the last little bit when it comes to it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle is really all about small indulgences. So it's not just about eating healthy all the time. It's about being able to have a treat. And we see companies doing an excellent job at providing those small indulgences for consumers. And I think there's a lot of opportunity in the U.S. market to see more of that. These two are really good, very simple expressions of that. The Ben & Jerry's ice cream, that particular one is from France. We see them in other European markets as well, are those little individual cups. Now, okay, we can buy those little individual cups in some convenience stores, but this is a multi-pack that you purchase that's intended for home consumption. So you buy this multi-pack, you take it home, and when you feel like you got to have something, there's a little bit of Ben & Jerry's, not an entire pint of Ben & Jerry's. So it provides that little bit of an indulgence. And Cadbury, Mondelez, with its dairy milk chocolate in the UK and Australia, has done something very nice with the package. It's a very standard flow wrap pack. There's nothing special about the package except, it's got the seal down the center of the back, as they do, but when you open it up, that seal remains just a little bit sticky. So you can break off as much of that chocolate as you want, and you can close it back up to finish it off another time, if it lasts that long. So that's some thoughts on it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. The second one is clean is the new green, and what that's all about is clean label, transparency, and talking about what you do, why you do it, and how well you do it. So that's all the things that you heard in the panel before, and you'll hear as well in the panel coming up. The reason we see so much focus on this is simple. Consumers don't trust you. And by you, I mean every CPG company out there and just about every big business as well, it seems. This is some data that we've got from some of our research, and that first data point is a real obvious one. Virtually all consumers in China say that they're concerned about the quality of the food that they're eating, about the safety of the food that they're eating. Well, given all the issues that we've seen in China, that absolutely makes sense. But it's the other two that I look at, and it's very concerning, because look at those other two data points. 49% of UK consumers, so half of UK consumers trust the food industry to provide food that's safe to eat. So half of the UK consumers don't trust companies to provide food that's safe to eat. Now, when you think a little bit more about that and what that means for the UK market, many consumers in the UK market are very concerned about artificial colors, artificial flavors, artificial sweeteners, and believe that all of those things are very bad for them and have really significant impact on their health. And I think it's that UK consumers are responding to. I don't believe they think that food companies are manufacturing food that will make them sick, but rather that they're using ingredients that they don't want to see in their food. And then that last point, 38% of consumers in the US say that they trust what companies say on labels about their food. Holy cow, that is, what's the math on that? 62%. Don't trust what companies say on labels about their food. Now, again, that's not that they think necessarily the companies are lying to them, but rather, I think what that means is we see so many products that make claims, make statements on pack that are very unclear, difficult for consumers to really understand what that statement means. One that I would suggest is the statement, all natural. That's one of those claims that appears on a lot of packs, and it's something that isn't regulated, can mean so many different things, and companies make it mean a lot of different things. Therefore, I think that's one of those examples of a claim that consumers simply don't trust anymore. Well, the claims that consumers look for, so we ask them, what do you look for on pack? Well, they're looking for nutrition information, so the government has taught them very well to pick up that pack, look at the back or look at the side at the nutrition statement. They're looking for products to be a good or excellent source of vitamins, minerals, fiber, whatever it happens to be. They are looking for some of those low-in statements, as you can see, in full serving of fruits and vegetables. Now, I highlighted all natural because that illustrates the degree to which consumers aren't really looking for all natural. Only about 40% say that they are looking for all natural claims on pack. So, when you look at this, what you see is consumers are looking to understand what it is about the product that makes it be what it is. You know, what are the core values about that product? When we ask consumers about what they think about organic foods, what they believe about organic foods, here's what I mean about consumers sometimes not necessarily knowing as much as you think they might. They say that they purchase organic foods because they don't contain unnecessary ingredients. Show me one company that puts unnecessary ingredients in their foods. They say they choose organics to avoid pesticides, and because they think that organic is less processed than non-organic. So again, some kind of faults in consumer understanding of what organic is all about. But what it points to is that consumers are looking for, they say that they're looking for things that are more inherently natural or more wholesome or less processed. So what we see is we see companies trying to provide some clarity, trying to provide some transparency. And these are three good, relatively random examples of what we see out there in the market. Beech Nut Baby Food talks about the products being real food for babies. And on the back of the pack, it explains exactly what that is and the simplicity of the ingredients. Sometimes it's really easy to put the number of ingredients on the front of pack, as you see with the Emmy yogurt there from Germany. 3 ingredients. Well, it's yogurt. Of course, it only has a couple ingredients. Very simple to do. It's much harder to do with a product like the Illumi product that you see there in the center. That's a shelf-stable meal product, so it's sauce and vegetables and sometimes some meat that you heat up and serve over a starch component. And what they do is they list the ingredients on the left-hand side of the pack. They put the nutrition information on the front of pack. But in case you were a little bit unclear about what some of those ingredients were, they put pictures of some of them on the front of pack as well. You can't see into that package, so that's a really good way to convey what's good and wholesome and natural about what's in that pouch. We do see talk about GMO. We do see companies talking about being GMO free. As you can see there, Smart Balance has its non-GMO pledge on front of pack. Very clear for those consumers who find that to be very important. Just to put it in perspective, the percent of food products that we see in the U.S. market that make a no GMO claim is very small. It's between 1% and 3%, but it's growing pretty significantly. Now, the other one that you see there really illustrates what tends to happen more when it comes to GMO-free statements. GMO-free statements tend to be bundled with other types of statements. So that particular meat-free burger there talks about it also being free of gluten and soy. So again, it's trying to take that more holistic approach in talking about what's in there that's good. But sometimes ingredients are a little more complicated and products are a little more complex. This company from Germany, Frosta, does an excellent job of conveying the goodness and the wholesomeness and the naturalness of the products that they make, and they are extremely transparent about it. And they always have been. What you see with some of their frozen vegetable products, when you look at the back of pack, it will show a map of Germany or Austria, depending on where the product is sold, and will show on the map exactly where those vegetables are grown. Now, this is a frozen fish product, so that's a much more complicated ingredient statement. So here's what they do to really convey the cleanness and the transparency of what they're doing. On the right-hand side of the screen is part of the back of pack of that. And what you see on the left is the list of the ingredients. What you see on the right is an explanation of what that ingredient is, or why it's there, or what's included in it. Something about it that drives home what's good about that ingredient. So the one I know for sure, it's all in German as you can imagine, the one I know for sure at the very bottom, it says black pepper. And next to it, it says ground by Frosta employees, freshly ground by Frosta employees. So really conveying that sense of, you know, we're taking care of you, we're doing the very best we can for you. So, there was one more slide that I meant to show, and I'll mention it very briefly, and that is we do see a couple products out there in the market that actually use the phrase clean label. There are exactly 2 of them. One's in Russia. The other one is in Germany. One's a yogurt, that's the one in Russia, and the other one is a frozen pork cutlet. They use that phrase clean label, but they're the only ones that we've seen in the market. And I think that clean label is very much an industry term like functional foods that doesn't translate very well to consumers. I would worry if companies used clean label on front of pack in any significant way, because it could become a little bit like, a little bit too much like all natural, something that's hard to understand and can be twisted to mean a lot of different things. So, just a couple final points, and then we can get the panel up here and talk about the future a little bit more. I think one of the most important things that companies need to think about is clear and simple communication of benefits, whether it's what it is about the formulation or what it is that the product will do for you. Consumers don't spend much time in stores. The Food Marketing Institute has some data that's quite old now, but they say that consumers spend on average 7 seconds for each product that they buy in a supermarket. Think about what that means for a second. So you're going down the aisle in the supermarket, you see something you might want to buy, you pick it up, you take a look at it, you look at the back, and then you decide, does it go in the cart, does it go back on the shelf? That's about your 7 seconds. So consumers don't take a lot of time. So it is very important for companies to communicate their benefits as clearly and simply as possible. I think every company has the opportunity to tell the story, either about their company or about the brand itself. And that's for big brands and little brands. I think Lobstergram is such a great example of a great way to tell the story about your company and always be talking about what it's all about. And I think the couple of the panelists that we've got coming up now in just a little bit will be able to tell that story as well. But it doesn't matter what size you are. I think any company can tell the story about a product and tell what it is about the product that's interesting and unique and just for you. And the last part is transparency. But keep in mind that consumers know how to check up on any statement that you make. It's called Googling. They know how to make sure if companies are being transparent or not, and if they're being truthful in their transparency or not. What that means is any company most definitely has to earn the trust of the consumers who buy their products. And so what we say is the key to that is to provide that clear, simple, straightforward communication as often as possible and in as many ways as possible. So, as I said, those are just two big trends that we've seen that are important this year and we think will be important in the years to come. So before we get the panel up here, I guess I'll say if we want to take like one or maybe two questions, if anybody has any questions. Otherwise, we'll move straight to the panel. Anybody have any questions? It's that post coffee break slump. Yeah, I know how that goes. All right, we got one. Yeah. Okay, so for those of you who didn't hear the question was, we hear about millennials being so influential, but are they opening up their pocketbooks and actually buying? To some degree, yes, they are. When it comes to grocery shopping, not quite as much. They do some. A good number of them are still living at home, so that's a little bit of a different dynamic. But what we do see is we see them going out to eat more and being more experimental with the kinds of things that they eat. One of the other things that we do see with millennials is they are more likely to buy premium priced products or products that have additional benefits. For the easiest example of that is cut up washed lettuce in a bag as opposed to buying a head of lettuce, that kind of thing. So when they do buy, they tend to buy somewhat more expensive things that most definitely have a convenience factor. I think we're going to see them open up those purse strings a lot, though, in the coming years. Yep. Anybody else? Okay, great. Thank you very much.